Hello and welcome to Checkpoint. And to log into Checkpoint for the first time, you'll have to come to the school campus to do that. Okay. Once you are in and you have logged in, you get in. Here is where you should be able to get in. As the first chapter says, we will do research by indexes. Okay. We would also do research by citations and table of contents. Okay, so getting started with let's go home, and the home screen, if I click on search, okay, I can find by citation. That's the first one I want to look at. We'll look at an example of citation. I like to go in the textbook and let's say this one, IRC. I'm looking at this particular chapter, IRC 351, section 351. I would simply put in 351 and do a search, and I can get the citation. The general rule: no gain or loss shall be recognized if property is transferred to a corporation by one or more persons solely in exchange for stock in such corporation, and immediately after the exchange such person or persons are in control. That's the general rule. Okay. I can go further into it. I can look at another section 368C, and I can continue to research further. The intent behind this clip is not necessarily to make you a research expert, which is not the intent when we do the research cases either, but to give you an exposure to Checkpoint. Now, as you know, the difference between a good attorney and a mediocre attorney is how much research can this particular firm or this particular attorney do, how much committed they are to finding out and interpreting the law that can help the client. Well, in this scenario, that is the same is the case over here too. So what I showed you is research by citation. Again, I can go to search and I can do by citation when I'm doing research. Okay. So going back to the textbook, 1.351-1, I can go here, 1.351-1, and I can go right here, and here is the transfer has not been amended, and there it is. Okay, that I can go ahead and look for as well. So, and then I can research. Of course, you would have to read the case. You will need to understand what the case is asking for, and then elaborate further as to what you are required to do. And I'll explain those requirements when I give you a specific case. In most of the scenarios, I'll give you a case that asks for you to prepare a tax memorandum after doing your research. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. By citation, can go. Then I can also do it by indexes. RIA Federal Handbook topic. I can go by topics. One of the favorite topics that people like to look at is penalties. Okay, the reason is you're going to get a lot of clients coming to you and saying, can my penalties get abated? Okay, you can go here and general abatement. I can click right over here and read the procedures for abatement of penalties. Okay, but then it's for you to read and research further. Again, I hope to make the cases interesting. Okay, that's the intent, and as I have said on the first day of this class in my first video clip, my intent is to make this an enjoyable experience as much as possible. A learning, maybe I used the wrong word, a learning experience, but learning can be enjoyable too if you like the subject matter. So that's how you would also look at section 1.351 REG section. But looking further, so let me look at another case over here. Now in this particular case, it's a difference between book and tax. Okay, how would the tax recognition be versus how would the book recognition be? IRC section 351, and then this is the ASB codifications. Usually the codifications, you would have to go here. We do not have access to this one, but I use the accountinginfo.com. So APB 29 or 845, non-monetary transactions, and it basically explains to you in detail what they are all, the basic principle, the fair value it talks about. And then you can, so unfortunately in Checkpoint we're not able to do that much research on the codifications, so that's how you would do it for that that particular kind of research. But hopefully I'll try not to give you this. I want you to get used to using Checkpoint. So as I said, now I'm planning on giving you 3 cases. The first case I'm going to post pretty soon, and I think that's the gist of this. So coming back over here, I showed you how to do it by indexes, and then you can do it by, I like to do it by table of content too. And I like to go into the Federal Library. I can go into Federal Editorial Materials, individuals, chapter A. It's broken down by chapters, partnerships. Okay, I can go in here. When you do the partnership chapters, you may like to look over here also for basis adjustments, maybe something that you may want to research additionally. So that's basically where you can look for, or what you can look for. Federal source materials, internal revenue bulletins, tax releases, IRS publications. You can go over here. Okay. I also like to look at the RIA handbook. Now you're not in an audit class, but if you were in my audit class, I would show you a little bit over here too. But Federal Library is over here that you can look for further if you want to do the research. So the intent behind this clip is to kind of show you where all the information is and how to look for it, and that's basically how you would go ahead and look for insofar as the table of contents is concerned. Now for quick research, what people use is, if you click on the Federal Library and you go into the editorial materials, I like to use what RIA handbook. So let me see where I can find it. I like to use this one, the Federal Tax Handbook. Okay, especially for individual taxes, this is a good research tool. Okay, if you want, you can use that. Here are some few practice aids, checklists for any new clients. You know, for example, you go in here, and there are some good checklists. Then you have certain client letters, sample client letter, alert letters, sample explanatory letters. This is just an FYI, okay? But this is good for you to take a look at as well. And then finally, what I also like to look at is how to look at cases. So let me go to the home screen. Okay, if I do search, find date range, form line tax watch, I want to look at a case. So I can do, I like to use this all screen, and I like to go to federal cases and see AIFTR 2D. Now let me go back to the textbook, and let me look at a good case. I had looked one up. Right here. So see, AFTR 2D 87-5651. So if I put down 87-5651, okay, here's the case. So this is how you can research the case and look into it further if you want to while you are doing the case research. Okay, that's how you can look at it. You can also AFTR 1413667-1. So if you go in and let's go back here, let's try to put 1413. And let's see right here, Tomlinson, and here's the case. The head note interest, dividends distinguished, interest deduction allowed, sole shareholders intended to make loan to corp, books refer to loan, rights were equal to those of general creditors, debentures were freely transferable. Okay, this is something that you can read about as well if you want to get into more detail, but this is how you would do case research. Okay, I hope this helps you get started. I cannot make you proficient in this. You have to become yourself by using these tools more and more. Okay, but that's how you would do your case research in there. Now, one final thing I wanted to show you here. So I bought this case tax. Let's look I'd like to look at one case in more detail about the tax research problems. Wicker Corporation made estimated tax payments of $6,000 in the first year. On March 12 of the second year, it filed its first year tax return showing a tax liability of $20,000. It paid the $14,000 balance at that time. But on April 20 of the second year, they discovered that there was an error, and they filed an amended return for the first year showing a reduced tax liability of only $8,000. Okay, so now, instead of $20,000, they only had $8,000. Now you need to prepare a memorandum for your tax manager explaining whether Wicker can base its estimated payments for year 2 on the amended $8,000 tax liability for year 1, or whether use the $20,000 on its original year 1 return. So your manager suggested that before writing the memorandum, at a minimum, you need to look at this. So how are you going to look at this? Okay, of course, you go there and search by citation, and you can put down what's the code there? 6655. And you can go right here, and the amount of any required installment shall be 25% of the required annual payment. So now 100% of the tax for the taxable year, or 100% for the preceding taxable year. Okay, now in this case, this 100% of what? 20,000, 8,000. How would you look for it, and what would you research? So if you go back, there's this thing called rulings. Okay, now in the rulings, you can put down, and I may have put down wrong ruling, and I apologize for that. Right here, this is the one. Even I'm getting used to a lot of these things myself. And penalties, underpayment, amended return corporations. So as I said, in applying the exception to the addition to tax for underpayment of estimated taxes, it is the tax shown on the original tax return and not the tax shown on an amended return filed after the due date of the original return that is the basis for the computation. Okay, so you like this, you want to copy the selected text, it's copied to the clipboard. Okay, you want to save this to the folders. This is my folder where I have put down some important information that I liked. You can save it to the folders. You can flag it. You can save it right here. Okay, you can flag it. You can add a note to this document that you want to add a note to. These are the kind of things that you can do. So as I say, this is a brief overview of how this can be used to get started, but then it is up to you. Okay, how much you want to use it, and how well or this is going to serve you when you start your own tax practice or you work for any accounting firm. You can email this if you want to whichever email you want to. Okay, so that's basically it. I hope this gives you a good exposure, and let's get started with this. Thank you.